I was mowing my lawn when my mower hit something hard underground. At first, I thought it was just a rock. But when I looked closer, the ground sounded hollow. So I grabbed a shovel. And what I uncovered that evening wasn't a pipe or a root. It was a door. A hidden, metal door. Buried beneath my backyard. And guess who it led back to? The HOA President. Pause, eerie background music rises. What was she hiding under my yard? And why? Hey everyone. Welcome back to HOA Stories. My name's Ethan, and I live in a small, quiet neighborhood just outside Austin, Texas. I'm not some big city guy. Just a regular homeowner trying to enjoy some peace. But if you've ever dealt with an HOA, you already know, peace is the last thing they give you. And if you really hate HOAs like I do, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below and write BOOO HOA in the chat. Because after this story, you'll never look at your neighborhood the same way again. Now, let's start from the beginning. Something under my lawn. It started on a Friday evening. The sun was low, the street was quiet. That kind of perfect Texas sunset that paints everything gold. I had my earbuds in, mowing the front yard, just doing my weekend routine, until I rolled over a weird bump near the back fence. Thunk. The mower jolted hard. I turned it off and knelt down. The grass looked normal, but when I pressed the ground, it felt hollow, like something was buried underneath. I tapped it again. Same sound, clunk clunk, like metal under soil. Now look, I've lived here for 3 years. No one told me there was anything buried on this property. No pipes, no septic tank, no cables. I thought maybe it was an old storage lid. So I grabbed my shovel from the shed and started digging. The dirt came up easy, almost too easy, like someone had disturbed it before. About a foot down, my shovel hit metal again. I brushed the soil away with my hand. It wasn't a pipe. It was flat, square-shaped, with a rusty handle on top. It looked like a small metal door. Old, covered in dirt, maybe decades old. But here's the thing, it had new bolts. Someone had recently replaced them. I froze for a moment, took out my phone flashlight, and tried to peek through a small crack near the hinge. It was pitch black, but I could feel cold air coming out from inside. That's when I heard it. A faint echo from below, like a whisper, or maybe air moving through a tunnel. I swear my heart stopped for a second. I dropped my shovel and stepped back. Now, I'm not the jumpy type, but something about that moment, the hollow sound, the metal door, the cold air, it didn't feel right. I decided to stop digging for the night. I covered the hole with a tarp and went inside. Inside, I couldn't shake it off. Who buries a locked metal door under someone's yard? And why was there air coming out? The next morning, I decided to check the property records. I went online to the county assessor's site. But when I typed my address, something strange came up. My property boundary line wasn't straight. It curved oddly around the back fence, like a piece of land had been cut out and reattached. And that section led directly toward Mrs. Linda Carver's house, our HOA president. Now, Mrs. Carver wasn't your friendly, bake cookies for the neighborhood type. She was strict, always in everyone's business. She measured lawns, checked mailbox heights, and once fined a family for painting their door the wrong shade of beige. We called her the sheriff. She called herself the standard enforcer. Anyway, her property was right behind mine. And guess where that weird line connected? Right to her backyard shed. That night, curiosity got the best of me. I went outside again, lifted the tarp, and unscrewed the first bolt. It squeaked loudly. I froze, listening. No sound. Second bolt came off. Then third. The metal door creaked open, heavy and rusted. The air that came out was cold and smelled like dirt and metal. I shined my flashlight down. A narrow tunnel, lined with old bricks, leading toward Mrs. Carver's direction. I almost dropped my phone. This wasn't some random underground pipe or storage room. Someone had built a passageway under the fence line. It was real, and it was recent. I didn't go inside right away. I wasn't stupid. If someone dug this illegally, it could collapse. So I closed it back and covered it again. But I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept spinning. What if she was hiding something down there? Drugs? Stolen stuff? Or worse, was she spying on people? Next morning, I casually mentioned to my neighbor, Tom. He's this old retired guy who loves gossip more than his morning paper. I asked, "Hey Tom, you ever notice any work behind the fences last year?" He nodded. "Oh yeah, remember last spring? Linda had some guys working late nights by her shed. Said it was just plumbing. Plumbing. At midnight." I smiled politely and thanked him, but inside I was screaming. Now I knew I wasn't crazy. There was something going on. So that evening, I set up my small GoPro near the hole. I covered it with a few leaves and aimed it at the ground. If anyone came near it, I'd know. The footage I saw the next day made my skin crawl. At around 2:13 a.m., the camera caught faint movement, a shadow, then a flashlight flicker, and a woman's figure bending down near the tarp. Mrs. Carver. She looked around, slowly, then lifted the tarp, peered inside, and smiled, like she already knew what I'd found. Then she looked straight toward my camera, and whispered something, too quiet to hear, before walking away. I slammed pause on the video. What the hell was that? She knew. She knew I found her tunnel. The next morning, I got a note taped to my front door. Typed, not handwritten. No name, no signature. Just 4 words. Stay off the property. No HOA letterhead. No explanation. And that's when I realized. This wasn't about rules or property lines anymore. This was personal. I started wondering, what was she doing underground? And how long had she been crossing under my yard without me knowing? That night, I sat in my living room, lights off, just staring through the blinds at her house. She was outside, watering her roses like nothing happened. Same smug smile on her face. But behind that sweet suburban smile, I swear she was hiding something. Something big. And I was done pretending not to notice. What would you do if you discovered a secret tunnel under your backyard leading straight to your HOA president's house? Would you explore it, or call the cops first? I didn't sleep that night. That note, those 4 words, they kept flashing in my head. Stay off the property. No name, no address, no HOA logo. Just pure warning. It was like she was saying, "I'm watching you." I kept staring at my security monitor. Nothing. Street was quiet. Her lights were off. But that silence felt staged. The kind of silence before a storm. Next morning, I tried to act normal. Mowed the front yard again. Waved to a few neighbors. Pretended like everything was fine. But every time I looked at her house, I saw that same smug look in my mind. That little half-smile she gave to my camera at 2 a.m. She knew what I found. She wanted me to know she knew. Around noon, I walked over to the mailbox. Right when I reached the curb, her car pulled out of the driveway, slow, deliberate. She stopped right beside me, rolled down the window. "Morning, Ethan," she said with that tight smile. "Everything all right with your yard?" I froze. Was she mocking me? "Yeah," I said casually. "Just found some old junk under the soil. Probably nothing." Her smile didn't move, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "You should be careful digging too deep," she said softly. "Some things down there are better left alone." Then she drove off. No wave, no goodbye. Just that cold warning hanging in the air. That afternoon, I decided to dig deeper. Not the tunnel yet, but the truth. I searched online. Pulled up every HOA public record I could find. Meeting notes, annual maintenance reports, even landscaping budgets. And that's when I noticed something weird. In last year's budget, subterranean drainage work, $6,800. Authorized by none other than Mrs. Linda Carver. But no one in the neighborhood ever mentioned any drainage project. No one saw construction trucks, no pipes, no workers, nothing. Except Tom, who saw her plumbing guys late at night. It all clicked. She used HOA funds to build something underground, and it started under my yard. That evening, I went back out again. This time, I wasn't scared. I was pissed. I took my flashlight, gloves, and GoPro. Uncovered the hatch quietly. The metal creaked. The smell hit again, damp soil, rust, something old. I tied a rope to a nearby tree and started lowering myself in. The air was colder than I expected. And the tunnel, it wasn't small. It was big enough to crawl through easily. Lined with bricks like someone had reinforced it. Every few feet, I saw marks on the wall, fresh ones. Boot prints, maybe. Someone had been walking here recently. The tunnel stretched straight for about 20 feet, then curved right. And there it was, a wooden ladder leading upward. I aimed my flashlight. Above me, wooden planks, nailed shut. But light leaked through the cracks. I pushed gently, and my heart stopped. The wood panel lifted slightly, and I saw the bottom of a familiar object. A floral rug. Inside her garden shed. I lowered the panel slowly. My hands were shaking. This tunnel connected directly to her property. But why? What was she doing underground? I backed out slowly, heart pounding. When I climbed out, it was already getting dark. Cicadas screaming, crickets echoing, that eerie suburban soundtrack. I covered the hatch again, wiped the dirt from my face. And that's when I saw movement at the window of her house. She was standing there, curtain half open, staring right at me. No expression, no smile, just those cold eyes. Next morning, a new letter arrived. This time it looked official, HOA letterhead, envelope stamped. Inside it read, Notice of property violation, unauthorized ground disturbance. Fine, $250 per day until resolved. I laughed out loud. She was fining me for digging up her secret tunnel. Petty and desperate, classic HOA move. But two could play that game. I printed out every screenshot of her budget report, circled the subterranean drainage work, attached the time-stamped video of her sneaking into my yard, and emailed it directly to the HOA board members, all of them. Then I waited. 2 days passed. No reply. No acknowledgement. Just silence. But something strange happened on the third night. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of metal scraping outside, like someone moving something heavy in my yard. I peeked through the blinds, and nearly dropped my phone. A figure was kneeling near the fence. Flashlight off, but I could see the shape. It was her, digging, covering the tunnel entrance with dirt. I grabbed my phone and hit record. But when I opened the door, she was gone. Just footprints leading toward her yard. The hatch was sealed tight again, bolted shut with new screws. She wasn't hiding it anymore. She was burying it, fast. Next morning, I stormed into the HOA office. The secretary looked nervous when I mentioned Linda's name. She's not in today, she said quietly. I asked when she'd be back. She shrugged. Actually, she resigned this morning. I blinked. Resigned. She nodded. Said she needed to take a break. Something about personal matters. Personal matters? Yeah, right. I left the office feeling both victorious and confused. If she resigned, maybe the board found out something after all. But what scared me most was how fast she vanished. No goodbye. No moving truck. No notice. Her house went dark overnight. And that tunnel, still there. Still under my yard. That night, I couldn't resist. I had to go back down there one last time. I pried open the new bolts, climbed in, and crawled to the end again. Same ladder, same wooden panel. But this time, there was something new. A small wooden box sitting in the dirt, right beside the tunnel wall. I opened it carefully. Inside were photos. Old, faded, black and white. One of them made me gasp. It was my house. Decades ago. Before it was renovated. And in the photo, a man and a woman standing beside that same tunnel entrance. The woman looked exactly like Linda, but the date printed on the corner said 1974. My blood ran cold. Who was she, really? How could she be in a photo that old? Was she related to the original owners? Or was this something even darker? I looked closer. On the back of one photo, written in messy ink, were the words, "Keep the passage secret." I stuffed the box in my backpack and climbed out fast. Every light in her house was off. But for a split second, I thought I saw movement by the window again. Just a faint shadow. Watching me. If you found old photos proving your HOA president had a hidden tunnel dating back decades, would you expose her secret, or keep digging to find out what's really under there? I didn't tell anyone about the box. Not yet. I didn't even know how to explain it. How could I? Old photos of my house, from the 1970s, and a woman in them, who looked exactly like the current HOA president. Same face, same sharp smile, same pearl necklace she always wore. Either it was her mother, or something far weirder. The next morning, I went to the local records office. The clerk there was this old guy named Hal. Big glasses, gray beard, always smelled like coffee and printer ink. "Looking for property history?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I live on Maple Hollow Drive, house number 142. Just want to see if there's anything weird about it." He laughed. "Buddy, every house around here's got something weird. Lemme check." He typed on his computer. The screen loaded. Then he frowned. That's strange," he said. "What?" He turned the screen toward me. "Your property's got an easement that runs directly under your back fence. But there's no record of what it's for. No water line, no sewer, nothing. Just marked as subterranean access." Subterranean access? He scrolled a bit more, then muttered, "Filed in 1975, by a woman named Linda Carver." I froze. "Wait," I said. "You mean?" He nodded. "Yeah. That name's still on a few local filings. She must have owned property here before." I felt my stomach twist. If that easement was from 1975, and Linda was the one who filed it, that meant she'd been connected to this land for 50 years. I left the office shaking. When I got home, I opened the box again. The photos still smelled like old paper and dust. I spread them out on my table. Some showed the tunnel being dug. Others showed men in uniforms, maybe construction or military. And one picture had something that made my chest tighten. A metal box with a government label. U.S. Infrastructure Project, Restricted Zone C. And behind it, a small wooden sign. Maple Hollow Experimental Housing, 1974. My neighborhood. My backyard. I spent the rest of the day looking online. Old newspaper archives, city maps, anything. Finally, I found a tiny mention in an old Austin newspaper. 1974. Federal project halted in Maple Hollow after underground instability discovered. No casualties reported. That was it. No follow-up, no explanation. Just one short paragraph. So now I knew two things. Something happened underground, and Linda had been there since the beginning. That night, I couldn't stop pacing. Every noise outside made me jump. Around midnight, I stepped out onto my porch. The moon was full, the air heavy. And across the street, I saw lights flicker inside Linda's supposedly empty house. Someone was there. I grabbed my phone, started recording again. Walked across quietly, camera pressed to my chest. The house looked dead from the outside. No sound. No car in the driveway. But the side gate was open. I slipped in slowly, grass brushing against my jeans. And there, behind the shed, I saw it. The wooden door on the shed floor was open. I took a deep breath, turned on my flashlight, and stepped inside. The shed smelled of dirt, chemicals, and something old. On the wall were framed HOA certificates, photos, ribbons, all perfectly lined up. But behind them, faint lines, cracks running through the wood panels. Like something had shifted beneath. I knelt down. The hatch to the tunnel was open wide. Fresh footprints on the dirt. I shined my light down. Nothing. Just the same dark, cold passage. Until I heard it. A voice. Faint, distant. A woman's voice. Echoing up the tunnel. "Why did you come back?" My body froze. It sounded like her. "Linda." I didn't respond. Just held my breath and listened. The voice came again. Lower this time. Sad. Almost pleading. "You shouldn't have dug, Ethan." I wanted to run. But curiosity overpowered fear. I climbed down the ladder slowly. Each step creaking, echoing into the darkness. The tunnel looked the same. Except now, there were candles lit along the walls. Dozens of them. Wax dripping down the bricks. And at the far end, I saw her. Sitting on an old wooden chair. Hands clasped, eyes closed. Like she'd been waiting for me. "Linda," I whispered. She didn't move. I stepped closer. Her face looked pale. Tired. Older than before. "Why did you build this?" I asked softly. She finally opened her eyes. And for the first time, I didn't see arrogance or control. I saw fear. "It wasn't me," she said. Her voice cracked. "It was them." "Who's them?" She shook her head slowly. "This place wasn't meant for homes. It was meant for containment." "Containment? What do you mean?" asked. She looked at me, really looked, and whispered, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Then she stood up and handed me something. A rusted metal tag. It had a government serial number, and a single word stamped across it, "Property." Before I could say anything, there was a deep rumble. The tunnel walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. She shouted, "Get out!" I turned and ran as fast as I could. Dirt falling around me. Candles tipping over. The air thick with dust. I climbed the ladder, pushed open the hatch, and stumbled into her shed. The ground behind me rumbled again, a dull, heavy sound. Then silence. When I looked back down, the tunnel had collapsed. Gone. I stood there panting, covered in dirt and fear. And when I turned around to ask if she was okay, she wasn't there. The next morning, the police were everywhere. Apparently, someone reported a sinkhole in Linda's backyard. They asked if I'd seen her. I told them she'd left town days ago. They nodded, made notes, and left. No one mentioned the tunnel. No one cared about the truth. The HOA board replaced her within a week. New president, new rules, new smiles. But every time I walk past her old house, I feel it. That cold breeze. That faint hum from the ground. And at night, sometimes I swear I hear her voice, whispering through the soil. "Don't dig too deep." If you discovered that your HOA president had ties to a secret government project under your neighborhood, would you dig deeper or seal it forever? I didn't leave the house for 2 days. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My head kept replaying her voice. Those last words in the tunnel. This place wasn't meant for homes. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, pale, terrified, almost begging me to stop digging. But what haunted me most was that metal tag in my hand. Cold, heavy, stamped with one word, "Property," and a serial number I couldn't trace. I cleaned the dirt off it, held it under my desk lamp. The letters were etched deep, not printed. Government style. The back had faint engraving, Zone C, Facility 12. What the hell was Facility 12? I typed it into Google. Nothing. Typed again, Facility 12 Austin Zone C. No public record. No articles. Just one old, archived Reddit post from years ago. It read, "Anyone know what Zone C Facility 12 near Maple Hollow was? My dad said it was sealed after an accident underground. He used to hear strange noises back then. Locals said it was a testing site." Testing site. I felt my stomach twist again. I clicked the profile. User deleted. Of course. I sat there in silence. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard something, a low hum, coming from the floor. I pressed my ear to the wooden boards. There it was again. A faint vibration, like machinery deep underground. But the tunnel collapsed. Didn't it? I grabbed my flashlight and went outside. The night air was thick and cold. Cicadas gone silent. The hatch was still buried under a pile of dirt. But the ground felt warmer than usual. And the soil, it was slightly trembling. I stepped back slowly. That's when I saw it, a faint orange glow seeping through the dirt cracks. I ran back inside. Next morning, I called the local power company. Asked if there were underground lines near my property. They said no. Nothing electrical runs beneath Maple Hollow Drive. Everything's overhead. Then what the hell was that glow? I decided to visit Tom again, my neighbor who'd seen the workers last year. When he opened the door, his face looked pale. "Ethan," he said, "you need to stop whatever you're doing." "What do you mean?" He sighed, looking over his shoulder. "Last night, 2 men came by asking about you. Said they were from city inspection. But they weren't wearing badges." My chest went tight. "What did they ask?" "They wanted to know if you'd been digging again." I went home fast. Closed every curtain. Locked the doors. For the next few hours, I just sat there staring at that metal tag on my table. It felt heavier now, like it was staring back at me. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. Tiny letters engraved near the edge. If found, return to U.S. Housing Division, Phase C. Housing Division. Like Department of Housing and Urban Development. I typed it in again. Nothing. So I called an old friend from college who worked for the city archives, Mark. "Hey, weird question," I said. "Ever heard of Housing Division Phase C? Some old federal thing, maybe?" There was a long pause on the other side. Then he whispered, "Where did you hear that?" I told him about the tunnel, the tag, the documents from the 70s. He went silent again. "Ethan, listen to me carefully," he said. "That project was sealed. It's not public. You're not supposed to have anything from it." "What was it?" He sighed. Then his voice dropped lower. "It was part of a Cold War housing experiment. Government built a few prototype neighborhoods over sealed underground facilities. Testing environmental containment. Something went wrong." "What do you mean, something went wrong?" He hesitated. "People got sick. They buried it. Literally. They built homes on top to cover it." My blood froze. "So Linda. She wasn't just a president," he cut in. "She was a caretaker. Someone had to make sure no one dug down again. Caretaker." Everything clicked. Her obsession with rules. Her surveillance. Her paranoia about digging. She wasn't trying to control us. She was trying to contain something. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. If that's true, what's still under there? I walked outside again. Moonlight pale, air still. I stood where the tunnel once was. No glow tonight. Just silence. Then, faintly, I smelled it again. That same metallic, chemical scent from before. I dug a little with my shovel. The dirt was darker. Oily almost. And then I hit something hard again. Not metal this time. Plastic. I brushed it off. It was a sealed container, like an old canister. Yellow. Cracked but intact. A biohazard symbol on the side. I backed up instantly. Heart pounding. What the hell was that doing here? I put on gloves. Carried it carefully to my shed. Wiped off the label. Under the symbol were faded words. Containment sample, Phase C/Property 142. Property 142. My address. I felt dizzy. So whatever they were testing back then, it wasn't just under my home. It was in my home. I sat there in silence for an hour. Then I heard my phone buzz. A new message from an unknown number. No name. No greeting. Just one line. Put it back where you found it. I dropped the phone. The message deleted itself seconds later. Now I was sure. Someone was watching me. I didn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me flinch. At 3 a.m., I looked outside, and there they were. 2 men standing near the fence. Black jackets. No faces visible. They didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched. Then one of them pointed directly at me. I closed the blinds, grabbed the canister, and buried it again, deeper this time. When I came back inside, the yard was empty. Gone. But the smell of metal still lingered in the air. By morning, the ground was flat again, like nothing ever happened. I tried to tell Tom, but when I went over, his house was locked. No answer. A "for sale" sign sat on his lawn, freshly planted. He was gone too. Now, every night, I hear faint humming under the floor, and sometimes whispers. Not voices I can make out, just murmurs, like something beneath us never stopped running. I think Linda tried to warn me. I think that tunnel wasn't built to hide something. It was built to release pressure, to keep whatever's below from reaching the surface. And if that's true, then covering it again might have made things worse. If you discovered your whole neighborhood was built over a buried government experiment, would you expose it or run before they find you? I didn't leave my house for 3 days. The humming under the floor never stopped. Sometimes it got louder. Sometimes it faded into silence. But it was always there. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't answer calls. Didn't sleep much either. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those 2 men by my fence. And that message, "Put it back where you found it." But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. If they wanted me scared, it worked. If they wanted me quiet, it failed. I decided to dig again. This time I wasn't stopping halfway. If there was something buried under my yard, I was going to find it, even if it killed me. I grabbed my tools, flashlights, camera, and started digging where the tunnel collapsed. The dirt was dense, heavy, smelled like rust and oil. It took hours before I hit something solid again. Metal, but not a hatch this time. A door, horizontal, bolted shut, covered in grime and concrete. I brushed it off with my hands. The more I cleaned, the clearer it became. It wasn't part of a house. It was part of an underground facility. And stamped across the door were faded words. U.S. Housing Division, Containment Access/Phase C. My chest tightened. Mark was right. This neighborhood wasn't random. It was built right over a federal site. And somehow, the HOA president knew. I filmed everything. Every symbol. Every angle. If something happened to me, I wanted proof. When I came back inside, I uploaded it all to a private drive. Labeled it "Truth About Maple Hollow." Then I called Mark again. He didn't answer. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Still nothing. Then a text came through. "Stop. They're watching." No name. No number. Just that line. I looked out my window, and there she was. Linda. Standing in my driveway, holding a clipboard. Her face calm, blank, too calm. I opened the door slowly. "Linda, we need to talk." She tilted her head, smiled faintly. "Ethan, you weren't supposed to find that tunnel." Her voice was steady, like she wasn't even surprised. "What's going on here?" asked. "What's under our homes?" She didn't answer right away. Just looked past me, at my yard. "You think the HOA's the villain, don't you?" she finally said. "But we didn't create the problem. We just keep it contained." "Contained? You mean that canister? That glow?" Her expression hardened. "Do you have it?" I hesitated. She stepped closer. "Listen to me," she whispered. "Whatever was in that container, it isn't dormant anymore." "What do you mean?" She glanced over her shoulder. "They told me if it ever leaked again, we'd have 72 hours before exposure reached surface level." My heart started pounding. What kind of exposure? She took a deep breath. "Biological." I stumbled back. "You're saying there's some kind of infection down there?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said softly, "It wasn't supposed to reach the water lines." I froze. Water lines. Every home. Connected. I ran to the faucet inside. Turned it on. The water looked normal. But there was a faint shimmer under the light, like fine dust particles floating in it. "Linda," I said, voice trembling, "did they poison the whole neighborhood?" She didn't say a word. That silence was louder than any answer. I turned back to her. "I'm going public with this." Her eyes widened. "You can't. They can't silence everyone." She stepped forward again. "They can silence you." I saw it then, fear. Not anger. Not guilt. Just fear. She wasn't protecting them. She was protecting us. Later that night, I packed my bag, grabbed the metal tag, the documents, and my camera. I planned to drive straight to the news station downtown. But before I could start the car, my headlights flickered, then went out completely. The whole street went dark. Not a single light anywhere. Only the faint hum under the ground. Louder than ever now. Then, one by one, porch lights turned on again. But they weren't the usual yellow glow. They were orange. The same color as the tunnel. I stepped outside. The air felt heavy, thick. And then I saw it, thin streaks of orange mist leaking from the grass. Rising like fog. It spread slowly across the lawns. Flowing under fences. Across driveways. It looked almost beautiful. Until I realized what it was. It was coming from underground. From that door. I grabbed my phone. Started recording again. But before I could post anything, a black SUV stopped in front of my house. Two men stepped out, same jackets, same expressionless faces. One of them held up an ID I couldn't read. "Sir, you need to come with us." I laughed nervously. "You think I'm stupid?" The other one said calmly, "You've been exposed." I froze. "What?" He reached into his coat, pulled out a small scanner, ran it across my arm. It beeped red. They looked at each other. Then one of them muttered, "Containment compromised." I backed away. What the hell does that mean? Before I could move again, they grabbed me by the arms. I yelled, fought. But they were too strong. Linda appeared from across the street, screaming, "Leave him alone." They ignored her. I caught one last glimpse of her, crying, shaking her head, before they shoved me into the SUV. And then everything went black. If you discovered your HOA president was secretly protecting your neighborhood from a buried government experiment, would you trust her or expose her anyway? I woke up in total darkness. No sound, no smell, just the faint taste of metal in the air. My head was pounding. My wrists were sore. Something cold wrapped around them, metal cuffs. Then I heard it. A steady hum, low and constant, like the heartbeat of a machine. I blinked until my eyes adjusted, and saw flickering fluorescent lights above me. Concrete walls, pipes, steel doors. I wasn't in a hospital, or a police station. I was underground. I sat up slowly. Every movement made my body ache. The room was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet. A metal table, a chair, a drain in the corner. My phone was gone. My watch too. On the wall across from me was a single camera lens, blinking red. I looked at it for a long time before finally saying, "Where am I?" No response. Then a voice crackled through a hidden speaker. Flat, emotionless. "You are in Facility 12 Containment Sector." Facility 12. I froze. The same name from the metal tag. "Why am I here?" asked. No answer. The hum grew louder. Then the door opened. Two men walked in, the same ones from the SUV. Still in black suits. Still expressionless. Between them was another person. A woman. And when she stepped into the light, I saw her face. Linda. She looked exhausted. Her eyes red. Her hands trembling slightly. "Ethan," she said softly, "I told you not to dig." "Where am I?" I demanded. She looked at the floor. then said quietly, "You're under Maple Hollow." I laughed bitterly. "Of course I am. How far down this time?" 60 feet, she said. I looked around again. Why is this here? What did they bury? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she motioned for one of the men to unlock my cuffs. They hesitated, but did it anyway. She gestured for me to follow her. We walked through a corridor lined with pipes. The air was warm, smelled faintly of chemicals and rust. Every 20 feet, red warning lights blinked on the walls. Biohazard area. Authorized personnel only. The deeper we went, the stronger the vibration under my feet. Finally, we stopped at a large reinforced door. She turned to me. "You wanted answers," she said. "Here they are." She pressed her hand on a scanner. The door hissed open. The room beyond looked like a lab. Desks overturned. Broken glass everywhere. Old computers coated in dust. And in the center, a thick glass chamber. Cracked. Leaking faint orange vapor from one corner. Inside it was a dark, swirling substance. Almost alive. It pulsed. Shifted. Like smoke trapped in water. I stepped closer. "What is that?" She whispered. "It's called Compound C." I frowned. "What's it do?" Her voice cracked. "They said it was supposed to be a soil purifier. Designed to remove toxins, clean groundwater, make contaminated land safe again." But something went wrong. She nodded. It mutated. Reacted with minerals underground. Became something else. Something else like what? She looked up at me with fear in her eyes. Like it started to replicate. I felt cold. Replicate. "It grew," she said. "Spread through the tunnels. The more it spread, the more unstable it got." "Why didn't they destroy it?" She sighed. "They tried. But when they burned one chamber, 3 more opened somewhere else. So they sealed it instead. Built Maple Hollow right on top to mask the site." I stared at the chamber again. The vapor pulsing slowly like breath. "And the HOA?" She gave a bitter smile. "We weren't managing lawns, Ethan. We were managing exposure. Every fine, every inspection, it was just control. Keeping people from digging too deep." I couldn't process it all. "So why bring me here?" She hesitated. "You were exposed. We had to monitor you." "Monitor me for what?" Her silence said it all. I stepped back slowly. "You think I'm infected?" She didn't deny it. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. Tiny orange flecks glowed faintly on my skin under the light. I panicked. Tried to rub them off. They didn't fade. "Oh God!" She reached out. "Ethan, listen to me. Get away from me." I shouted. The guards stepped forward. She raised a hand. "Let him talk." I stared at her. "Why not just kill me? If that's what you do with the others." Her eyes softened. "Because you're the first one who made it this far without breaking containment." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked almost proud. "Everyone else who dug too deep, they didn't survive the first night." I swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" She looked at the leaking chamber. Then back at me. "I don't know," she whispered. "The readings have been rising again. Containment might fail soon." The lights flickered. A loud alarm blared through the hallways. "Alert! Containment breach detected." The guards pulled out weapons. Linda ran to a control panel. "Seal the corridor," she shouted. The chamber cracked again. This time louder. A hiss of orange gas filled the air. She grabbed my arm. "Ethan, move." We ran down the hallway. The floor vibrated violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Somewhere behind us, metal tore like paper. The alarms screamed. The hum grew into a roar. I looked back once, and saw it. The orange mist had turned into a shape. A swirling, glowing mass that moved on its own. Crawling through the air like liquid fire. It was coming straight toward us. We reached another door. She slammed it shut behind us. We both gasped for air. Through the small window, I saw the vapor pressing against the glass. Pulsing, searching. "What happens if it gets out?" asked. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "It already has. If you were Ethan, trapped in an underground facility beneath your neighborhood, would you fight to escape, or stay to stop what's coming?" The alarms wouldn't stop screaming. Red lights flashed across the corridor. Smoke filled the air. Every step echoed like thunder. Linda grabbed my hand. Her fingers were trembling. Her voice barely a whisper through the noise. "It's spreading again." I looked back, orange vapor pushing through cracks in the walls. Crawling like it was alive. We ran. Doors slammed shut behind us. Metal sealing with a hiss. We turned corner after corner until the path ended at an elevator shaft. The display read B3 surface. "Go," she said. "What about you?" She shook her head. "I have to override the failsafe from here. Someone has to keep it from reaching the town." I stared at her. "You can't stay down here." She gave a faint smile. "I signed up for this job a long time ago." I stepped into the elevator. But my heart refused to let the doors close. "Linda, what if I can stop it?" Her eyes softened. "You can't." The doors started to shut. I shoved my hand between them. "There's something you're not telling me," I said. "Why did you pick me to live here?" She hesitated. Then she whispered something that made my knees weak. "Because you're one of them." I froze. "What?" She stepped closer. "You weren't supposed to remember. Your property wasn't random, Ethan. It was selected." "Selected for what?" Her eyes glistened. "You were born here." The elevator lights flickered. My head spun. "What are you talking about?" She took a breath. "You were part of the first test generation. Children born near the containment zone. They were supposed to be immune. But your parents escaped the program before it ended. You were relocated. The records were buried." My mouth went dry. "That's impossible." She shook her head. "Your DNA still carries trace markers of compound C. That's why you survived exposure." I stumbled back. "So I've been living on top of the place that created me?" She nodded slowly. The elevator groaned again. The floor shook. The vapor on the other side of the hall surged forward, swallowing everything in its path. She looked at me, eyes full of guilt and fear. "Go. Now." I stepped inside, still staring at her. She slammed the emergency button. The doors closed, and all I saw before they sealed shut was her silhouette swallowed by orange light. The elevator jerked upward, dust raining from the ceiling. Every floor we passed, I could hear it, the roar of metal tearing, walls cracking, alarms fading into silence. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the middle of my street. My house, gone. Every house, gone. Maple Hollow was a crater. The sky was gray. Ash drifting down like snow. No sound. No birds. No people. Just the faint smell of burnt plastic and chemicals. I stood up slowly. My head pounding. My hands shaking. In the distance, the remains of the HOA office smoldered, only the flagpole still standing. And at its base, a small metal box half buried in dirt. I walked over and opened it. Inside was the same tag I'd found days ago. Property. And underneath it, etched in fresh metal, were two new words. Of Ethan. I dropped it. Backed away. Behind me, something moved under the dirt. A ripple. A vibration. The ground pulsed once, twice, then stopped. I heard sirens far away. Helicopters, maybe. But I didn't run toward them. I looked down at my hands. Orange dust glowing faintly under my skin again. Maybe Linda was right. Maybe it was never just containment. Maybe I wasn't supposed to survive because I belonged to it. And as the sun broke through the smoke, the hum returned beneath my feet. Slow. Rhythmic. Alive. I whispered into the empty air. "I'm still here." And the ground whispered back. "If you discovered you were part of the experiment the HOA was hiding, Would you reveal it to the world, or disappear with the secret?